Have you ever struggled to actually finish a knitting or crochet project? Are learning new techniques a huge challenge, or has getting help with your project in the moment when you make a mistake felt impossible? Or maybe you're looking for a way to tap into your own creativity and awaken your inner artist. If you have felt any of these struggles, I so get it. I have been there and felt them firsthand myself. So hi there, my name is Amy Small, and I am the owner and founder of Knit Collage, a business where myself and the team here designs unique hand-spun yarns, and we teach knitting and crochet online. We have taught thousands of makers, knitters, and crocheters over the past 14 years that we have been in business, really from all over the world. So we've taught everything from the basics of the knit and the purl stitch to more complicated techniques like how to knit in the round and how to read a knitting chart or how to do entrelac and so many more. This spring will be my 15th time hosting a Makealong, which is just bananas that we've hosted so many. So over the last 7 years that we have been running these, we have had over 6,000 students join us in this experience, a number that keeps growing season after season. Along the way, these makers and students have finished with beautiful pieces that they love and wear with pride, and they've done this all the while upping their technical skills, leaning into their creativity, and developing a practice that helps bring about joy, calm, and relieves stress. But that's not how it all started for me. It was not pretty when I was just getting going, and I wonder if any of this resonates with you. So back when I was in college over 20 years ago, I struggled so much. I had just picked up knitting and I had spent all this money on yarn and I had a sweater pattern in mind, but I struggled to actually figure out the techniques written in the pattern, and I lost all that good cast on enthusiasm that I had when I started the project. Sadly, that beautiful sweater and that amazing yarn never became anything more than half knit panels I never pieced together. It was very sad. So instead of progressing and actually finishing that sweater, I was left feeling completely discouraged. I always aspired to be a knitter. I loved yarn. I was interested in fashion. There was something calling me to literally every yarn store I ever walked past. But I didn't know how to learn new techniques and how to get help in the moment when I faced a mistake that I had made or a challenge. What I didn't know then that I know now is that when you're a beginner and you're just starting out in knitting or crochet, that's when you actually need the most support and help to learn new techniques and to push past mistakes. I always thought of myself as a creative person, but years of growing up in our world that celebrates sameness, I felt that much of my own creativity had been stamped out of me as I tried to fit in and juggle the responsibilities of being a working mom to 3 little boys. I had lost touch with that authentic self, that boundlessly creative kid I used to be. I have story after story, but I can remember being a teenager and customizing every single pair of jeans I owned. It was amazing. It was who I was. I didn't know it at the time, but I was looking for a way to return back to that person, to that freer version of myself, that little kid who loved to make things. Life is busy, busy, busy. We all know this, and I am the number one worst offender at slowing down and prioritizing any type of self-care. I filled my days with work and giant to-do lists for years and years, but I knew deep down it wasn't sustainable. Some days it just felt impossible to carve out any time for myself. I knew deep down that this had to shift, that I had to start prioritizing some sliver of time for myself, and not just taking care of everyone else and working 24/7. Lastly, I craved a way to connect with other makers while I made things and to geek out about all the yarn and the pattern details, and for the whole experience to just be a lot more fun and motivating. I wanted to share my most creative, authentic self with other like-minded people, but I didn't know that they were out there. They certainly weren't in my neighborhood and I didn't know how to find them. So after all of these years of struggling, knitting by myself, work in progress projects unfinished, and then later loads of customer feedback, I came up with a very unique version of a knit-along. Now we call it a make-along because we include crochet as well as knitting patterns in the experience. Our knit-alongs and make-alongs shatter these pitfalls and creative ruts that we sometimes get ourselves into and help create a supportive, nurturing environment for your inner artist to learn and grow in. It's a safe space for you to be your unique self, whatever level of crafter you might be, beginner or advanced, whatever aesthetic calls to you. At the heart of this make-along experience is this idea that making things changes us for the better. My favorite being that it brings us back to our creative, authentic selves. Knitting and crochet helps us tap into our own unique voice. It helps us get to know ourselves better, right? Get back in touch with that kid we used to be. And this is what I care the most about doing here at Knit Collage. This is my big why. This is why I show up all the time. It's about encouraging and inspiring you to just do you and let that inner artist out. But the make-alongs and the business go way beyond creativity and getting in touch with that inner artist. Knitting, tackling, and completing increasingly more challenging patterns has left me feeling more confident in all areas of my life. That ripple effect is massive. I'm less scared to try hard things because if I can figure out this tricky lace chart in a pattern, then I can most definitely face whatever problem it might be at work, whether it's inventory or QuickBooks or team related. There's this feeling that you get when you finish a project that's challenged you, that's taken time, you've made something with your own two hands, and it's a feeling like you're a rock star on top of the world. It's like walking on sunshine. It's the best. When someone comes up to you, a stranger, somewhere out in the world, the grocery store, wherever, and they say, "I love your sweater," or "I love your bag," you get to beam back at them and say, "Thanks, I made this." It's the best feeling in the world. So recently, my knitting and crochet has helped me change the way I react to hard things that arise in my life, both work and personal. When I make a mistake in one of my projects, instead of getting really pissed off, throwing it across the room, freaking out, I use that mistake as a low-stakes way to practice non-reaction and patience. This practice comes in handy when one of my kids is throwing a tantrum or I'm faced with an unexpected fire at work, two things that happen pretty much on the daily. I'm less likely to scream back at them and react, and I'm more likely to react in a calm way because I've practiced it with my yarn, my hook, and my needles. This effect recently on my life has been awesome, huge. Lastly, knitting helps me prioritize a space for myself to unwind, something I never did before. Knitting is a form of meditation, and the benefits of taking that time out for yourself to relax are huge. The repetitive motion of the needles and the yarn in my hands after long, stress-filled days helps clear it all away. It's something I can't do without every day now. It's part of my routine. So in a nutshell, what I've found is that it's not just about the knitting or crocheting at all. Knitting and crocheting, specifically through our make-alongs, is a tool that we can use to come back to our authentic, creative selves. But beyond that, leaning into our knitting and crochet helps us feel more relaxed, more peaceful, helps us develop patience in a deeper way, and then there's all the confidence that comes from completing something with your own two hands that challenged you. It's awesome. This make-along process works so well that we keep doing it over and over, twice a year, and now somehow we are on number 15. It took me 8 years into my knitting journey to even attempt color work. I was so scared of doing color work. It just seemed really hard and confusing. But Kathy, who took part in a past spring make-along, crushed color work within 3 months of learning how to knit. With our tutorials and coach help in the moment, she learned to knit, she completed her very first sweater, and then she moved on to knit a colorwork sweater. So incredibly inspiring. Tammy, who joined in a fall knit along a few years ago, she had also never knit before and went and completed her first Intarsia sweater, the Flower Power Intarsia sweater. So inspiring. When I saw her at Rhinebeck Sheep and Wool Festival, she was wearing a sweater that she had knit that was all of her own charts. It was absolutely incredible. So she took the knowledge that she learned with us and went and ran with it and is now designing her own things. It's absolutely mind-blowing and inspiring. Lastly, as part of the Fae Fringe Bag Challenge that we just completed over the course of 2 weeks, we had this knitter, Amanda, who was also new at knitting. She completed not 1, but 2 bags within those 14 days with our coach help and the video tutorials I created. So next week, I'm going to share more about the Spring Make-Along and invite you to join me, where one by one, we will overcome each of these past struggles together by not just starting, actually finishing and completing one of the 4 designs. Over the course of the month of May, you will learn new skills, get expert help when you need it, and knit and crochet in community, and finish with a fabulous design to love and cherish for many years to come. Together, we'll knit and crochet 4 designs. I'm going to go over them in just a second. They were all chosen by you in our design survey we put out about a month ago. Each design provides new techniques to learn and master, and that's really what we're going to be harping on. How can we help you learn and master all of these new skills and support you along the way? We are obsessed with your success. So let's go through each of these 4 designs. In the Lotus sweater and the Lotus pillow, you will be learning and mastering the Intarsia technique. It sounds hard, but it's not. We're going to break it down into bite-sized chunks. You will also learn some more beginner techniques. If you're doing the sweater, simple techniques like how to knit in the round, magic loop, picking up stitches. It's going to be a lot of fun. The pillow is shorter and the sweater will take a bit longer. The Sunbeam cardigan is next, and this is really ideal for true beginner knitters. If you have never knit a sweater, this is the design for you. This is the perfect one to try as your first sweater. We're going to learn simple increase techniques. We're going to learn how to knit a rib, how to pick up stitches, how to block. We'll be talking about mixing yarns and colors and textures a ton. It's going to be a lot of fun. Choose that if you're thinking about your first sweater and wanting to complete your first sweater. Lastly, in the Frolic Crochet Shawl, we'll be tackling crochet, and I will be teaching you how to crochet 4 different crochet flowers. So in this shawl, you have the choice of putting these crochet flowers together like I have. You can create a shawl or a scarf, or you can mix and match them to your own choosing and make something completely your own. I hope to see a lot of fun variations come out of that pattern. So in the next video coming out on Friday, I'm going to dive into these designs in a ton of detail. I'm going to also tell you about our yarns because they have a fabulous story behind them too about how they're made and by whom. And along with that video, there will be a detailed blog post on sizing. So you can choose your size ahead of time. I will share all the color combinations available and the pricing details. Also on Friday, I'm going to share some knitting and crochet tutorials so you can get an idea of how I teach and hopefully learn some awesome new things along the way. So I'm going to teach you how to read a pattern, how to choose a size for both the Lotus sweater and the Sunbeam cardigan, and a few knitting and crochet techniques as well. And then I'm going to dive into something kind of out there, but one of my favorite topics, the idea of intuitive flow state making. That's going to be a lot of fun too. So some of you might be wondering, what if I'm a true beginner? Can I really join in? I don't know anything. I would encourage you to choose one of the more beginner patterns, the Sunbeam or the Frolic. You will get the Knitting 101 course and the Crochet 101 course that I have painstakingly filmed years ago. So absolutely you can join in. It's going to be easier if you choose one of the more beginner patterns. And I would suggest knowing at least the knit and purl stitch if you plan one of the more advanced patterns. Another question I keep getting is, I already know everything. I'm an expert knitter. Like, I don't need all your videos and tutorials. I would still invite you to join. Our community would benefit so much from having your voice and expertise in the group. And also, we have many expert knitters already in there, so you will not be alone. We have a mix of all skill levels, and there's so much awesomeness that comes from making in community. So come share your knowledge with us and knit in community with us. The last question I want to talk about is, what if I already have my own yarn, or I live very far away and I'm worried shipping will be tricky from the States to wherever you are. So we do ship internationally, and we'd be happy to ship to you wherever you are. We always have a lot of people who join in from Australia. So please join us and grab the yarn. However, if you have your own yarn or it's not an option for you, no worries. There's a virtual option where you get the video courses and the community and the coaching. And that is an awesome one, and I would encourage you to take that. And I'll dive into all of those in more details in the coming videos. So that's that. For now, let me know in the comments what it would feel like to make and complete a project that challenged you, that pushed your creativity to the limits, that you finish and you think, oh my God, that feels like me, coming out of me, and feels like something that's inside of me that I've knit on the outside and is this perfectly beautiful expression of who I am. What would that feel like? Please let me know in the comments, and I am so excited to get started. Thank you so much.